Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So, the deep dive and full abilities for Blue Marvel are out. So, let's take a look at his rotation and then break down all of his abilities, and then I'm also going to give you guys my thoughts and opinions about him. So, let's get to it. He's obviously a silent champion, inflicts plenty of debuffs, overloads on his heavy attacks, so kind of like Photon on level 1s, except he gets them on heavy attacks. He also inflicts a ton of debuffs, and there are actually quite a lot of similarities with Photon mixed in with some other champions. Unlike Photon, he does take longer to access his damage, but he does have higher damage upside, I would say. He doesn't gain precision buffs when dexing, he gets energy resistance passives instead. But his base rotation seems to be fairly straightforward. You want to drop 2 level 1s, then you enter your damage mode, and that's when you drop your level 2, and then you can gain precisions, and you have these cruelties, and you hit harder, and overloads do more damage on the opponent. Surprisingly, I don't think he disables any of the masteries. Except for parry, kind of, because he doesn't make contact against anybody except skill champions. But here we go. And yeah, so he's a champion that ramps up in the fight and throughout the quest in between different fights. So in longer piece of content, in questing scenarios, he gets stronger as he goes along. And that generally isn't the best thing for a champion. It really, really isn't in this game. And you can be mad at me. You can scream, I have Balgron's brain rot or something like that. The fact of the matter is, ramp-up champions in this game rarely do well, unless they have exceptional abilities, or there is some sort of abilities that kind of account specifically for Balgrons or something. That said, let's take a look at the rest of his abilities and his power breakdown. So prestige-wise, 34,110. Let's see where that lands him. Super high. He's 4th in prestige. So, regardless of anything I say in this video, there are going to be a lot of Blue Marvels ranked out. He's going to be number 4 in prestige. Nice. Whoops. That's exactly what I wanted here. So, number 4. Okay. Well, I guess that basically automatically means I have to get him. Right, so survivability of 4, damage out of 4 and 5, but again, that's his kind of a ramp-up damage. Ease of use 2.5, utility 3, defender strength 2, so he's not a defender. Blue Marvel brings a fresh yet familiar take on silent stackers that ramps up by applying debuffs with powerful tools for controlling the fight. On his way to maximum output, he becomes stronger and stronger the longer he's able to sustain his empowered mode, and he carries over some of his new strength to future fights. His access to Crush, Overload, Provoke, and Wither. Dagger Summoning, heavy attacks cannot miss and inflict Overload. Tab block with the final hit to refresh. Ram charge by inflicting debuffs and using special 1. Reach 60 charge to become empowered. During special 2, tab block before the beam blast for precisions. Special 3 to regenerate health and ramp up for long fights. Some of your ramp up carries over. Defender strength, immune to bleed and power steal. Counters miss and combat power rate reduction. Attackers do not make contact against non-skilled opponents. Gains charges by inflicting debuffs and inflicting an attacker gaining power, becomes empowered at 60. Awakened becomes indestructible after taking non-hit direct damage. Okay, so let's actually get into the abilities. Living antimatter reactor, always active. As a living, stable antimatter reaction, Blue Marvel warps the laws of physics to his benefit. Couldn't benefit from some more damage. Earlier. The attacks deal energy damage and do not make contact with non-skill opponents. Obviously, that's cool. He can take like electros and whatnot. And yeah, he also, will not get stunned by regular opponents carrying him without beloved AI as it is. This unique composition Blue Marvel is immune to bleed and power steal, and his combat power rate cannot be reduced below 80%. Fair enough. Blue Marvel does not gain precision buff when using Dexterity Mastery. Instead, he gains Energy Resistance passive for 5 seconds, max stacks 3. Blue Marvel's thunderous blows will not be denied. His heavy attacks cannot miss, and when punishing a Mystic opponent's heavy or a special attack with a medium attack, he inflicts Crush debuff for 2.5 seconds. Light attacks 2, 3, and 4 inflict 1% weakness debuff for 10 seconds, max stacks 5, so that's how he accesses many on most of his debuffs. So obviously every fight you'll want to start with 3 heavy attacks as a bare minimum, basically. That's also not necessarily something that I personally like with the champion. Antimatter charges, max 60. Plus 1 charge when opponent's inflicted with non-stun debuff. Plus 3 charge when opponent fills a bar of power. Plus 1 charge when taking energy damage or blocking a hit while not in stable release. Every 20 charges Blue Marvel gains while not in stable release, and for every 8 seconds he spends in stable release, gain an indefinite cruelty passive, but it's a tiny cruelty really. Only 118. At the end of the fight, store 1 persistent antimatter plus additional for each personal cruelty gained after the start of the fight. Max stacks 30. So you carry some of that over. At the start of each fight, gain a dormant charge equal to persistent antimatter activating special attack. Converts up to 10 dormant charges into antimatter charges. So you ramp up faster in the next fights. Stable release. When Blue Marvel reaches antimatter charges, he enters stable release, and then charges begin to expire one at a time. Charges last half second. Pause during opponent's special attacks. Stable release grants following benefits. Gain 6000 attack. Gain extra energy penetration. Attacks cannot miss. Intercepting the opponent with basic attack inflicts personal crash debuff. When Blue Marvel has no antimatter charge remaining, stable release ends and its effects are removed. Heavy attack. The first hit inflicts 25% overload debuff for 20 seconds, max stacks 3. Nice. Tapping block while performing final hit focuses the blast, refreshing personal overload debuffs. If all 3 have more than 50% duration remaining, pause them for 10 seconds. It genuinely feels like you're going to end up spamming a lot of heavy attacks with this guy, which I don't like. But okay. Special 1, throw down the gauntlet. The first hit inflicts non-stacking provoke debuff for 5 seconds. While this debuff is active, striking the opponent re-inflicts it with its remaining duration, which is fixed. The final hit that inflicts a 20% wither debuff for 30 seconds, max stacks 2. While the opponent has more than 2 bars power, these withers reduce ability power rate by additional 30%. Sure, so manage opponent's power gain. Final hit refreshes personal overload and wither debuffs. That's obviously nice. Special attack 2, this is where your damage comes from largely. The burst of damage dealt by personal overload effect gains 65% additional potency during this attack. Before each beam blast, Blue Marvel taps into Hyper Cosmic Awareness Showtime. Tapping block during this slowed time grants precision passive for 25 seconds. This is easier during stable release. Okay. And then special attack 3, stay down. Gain non-stacking penetration passive, healing 6% of max health over 8 seconds. While stable release, this passive pauses for half second when the opponent is struck, so you can actually get a decent amount of heal there. Inflict an indefinite 25% overload passive, max stacks 3. So that's for like super long fights. And signature ability, before taking non-hit direct damage from champions, gain indestructible passive for 8 seconds. That's actually quite long indestructible. 8 seconds is a lot of time. Cooldown 35 seconds. Cooldown is removed when Blue Marvel is rooted. Start each fight with the number of personal cruelty passives equal 25% of persistent antimatter rounded down. So this is kind of neat. We'll definitely give him like a safety net in specific matchups. This would help you against like passive degens, for instance, against Ebony Maw. And that's kind of it. Synergy Photon. Can be. So that's where we are. Few things to note. I have been hearing more and more mentions of champion designers and players kind of like leaning into this idea of design champions for Coliseum, which at this point to me kind of seems fairly bad idea. And let me explain that. It's just mainly to do with the fact that the ranked rewards are not really worthwhile for Coliseum. The ranked rewards do not exist for the solo Coliseum, right? And for Alliance Coliseum, there are no meaningful ranked rewards, and I don't think Kabam is going to go that route. So if a champion can do, like, 2 or 3 bars more than some other, not really all that important, because Coliseum has somehow been made into more of a grindy thing. Get 80 bars of this solo boss down. And again, there it doesn't matter. You do 15 bars or 12 bars. The only difference in between that is going to be like whether you can spare another 25 energy, which just about everybody can. And similar in Alliance, really. Like, how well you do the fight barely matters compared to what podium level you grind to. So under its kind of structure, I don't consider like Coliseum as a viable reason to rank up any champion, for any of those fights, really. Because you can just grind a little bit more and achieve the same or better result. And to me, it kind of seems that Blue Marvel is, again, one of those champions that's kind of made for, again, it's obviously not made for Battlegrounds, and that's fine. I'm not saying every champion has to be made for Battlegrounds. I really am not. But at the same time, what I am saying is that if a champion isn't made with Battlegrounds, at the very least, somewhere in the periphery, significantly less people will rank up that champion, significantly less people will enjoy that champion. Because there's, again, very little incentive. And this game's really kind of about incentives. There's very little incentive to rank up, Sentry and go questing. Why would you do that? Because you can rank up a champion that's equally good or better at questing and long-form content and Necropolis, and also good for everything else that actually can increase the amount of rewards that you get. And when it comes to Blue Marvel, it genuinely obviously seems that he can access a lot of damage in mid to longer fights. It doesn't really have to be a super long fight, but it's, again, the base rotation before you kind of start doing your good damage, enter the damage mode, would be 2 level 1s and level 2, which isn't the worst thing. And then it kind of depends how quickly you can finish out from there. I'm still not, discarding that he could be potentially useful. And you know what? People will try to make Blue Marvel work because of that number. He's number 4 in Prestige. But, like, looking at the stats, no defensive strength, that's obviously not a plus either. I don't know. You could say expected better, but I wouldn't say that because it's too early to judge. It really is. I can say that I am not particularly hopeful. And I can say that I don't think right now, based on the information available here, that he's something that I'm overly interested in right now. Obviously, that could change. We definitely need to see the CCP gameplay. We definitely need to see how he integrates himself in the game, how well he, counters the meta matchups. But I can't say that I'm super excited. Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we